Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of Amazon Prime's Invincible. We're talking episode 6, which was titled, You Look Kinda Dead. And man, this was a great episode. It wasn't a lot of action, but I'm okay with that because we got some great character moments. We have a new character that we'll break down. We have an ending of a character that I thought wasn't coming back, but might be making his way back to the screen in due time. But we're going to break it all down in this spoiler review. But before we do so, make sure you all are following me on all my other social media accounts, which you can find those links in the description below. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing to the channel, and while you all are at it, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert when I drop early content like this. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in the comments below, let's discuss everything about this 6th episode, your pros, your cons, your thoughts, your theories. DA and Cecil having a partnership later on, the mysterious nature of how Samson came back to life, and of course robot Mauler twins Immortal coming back. Let's break it all down in the comments below. So for those that haven't seen the episode quite yet and you don't want to get spoiled, I don't know why you click on the video, but nonetheless, go check out my spoiler-free review that I did for this episode. Come back and join the conversation. But if you've seen this 6th episode, you're in good shape. We're going to break it all down. So just quick initial thoughts. I said it in my spoiler-free review, but this wasn't as action-heavy, and I was okay with that because we got some character development as we've gotten in these 6 episodes thus far, but we get more of Mark's journey and him tackling his teenage life and his being a superhero. We see Debbie discovering more about Nolan, having the conversations with Art, having that confrontation with Nolan in this episode, and his, reaction to what she said to him. We learn more about Eve and her character development, her hero's journey, and her discovering what it means to her to be a hero, as well as D.A. Sinclair, and voiced by Ezra Miller. We got zombie creature robots. We have so much to break down. I really enjoyed this episode, and I love the stuff that it sets up with the grave and the digging of Immortal and what that can mean for the future of this show. So I really enjoyed this episode, but again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. So let's recap it. Let's break it down together as the episode opens up with this drunk Doug character whose dad seems to be a pretty big deal, owns half the school. I would imagine that Mr. Cheston might be making an appearance in the show, especially with the disappearance of his son and his son actually dying. It'll be really interesting to see who that character turns to be. But nonetheless, we see Doug gets kidnapped and gets experimented on, which we'll talk about in a second as we meet this character, D.A. Sinclair. But catching up to Monster Girl as she's taken into the emergency room, as Robot bursts in, wants to help her out as much as he can, and he has some alternative motives in regards to why he cares so much about Monster Girl, which we'll talk about. But interesting enough, and they don't really allude to it or talk about it too much in this episode, but we see Samsung he's unconscious, but he awakens mysteriously. So I don't know. Again, I've mentioned it in my first review. I haven't read these comics and I haven't spoiled myself in reading them. I don't look up Wikipedia stuff. I want to go on this journey blind as can be and enjoy it and all and not have things spoiled for me. So he mysteriously wakes up. So that's really interesting to keep an eye out for. But we also see at the same time Mark waking up as Mark learns that he's been out for 6 days now. And we see Nolan getting approached by Cecil, who's pushing his buttons trying to get a little information from Nolan, but he talks about the whereabouts of Dark Blood as Cecil questions Nolan's parenting skills in regards to why he would let Mark go out and get his ass beat, or not knowing he was going to get his ass beat, but having that kind of moment by getting his ass handed to him by Battle Beast. But we see again Cecil kind of getting in the head, mentions everything that went down with Machine Head. Cut back to Mark making amends with Amber, and I love the stuff they had in this relationship, seeing their relationship continue to grow. Unfortunately, things kind of shake out in a bad manner, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But seeing, catching up with them and catching up with William, Mark's best friend. We haven't seen him for quite a few episodes, but we learn that he wants to go on a trip to Upstate University to visit Rick, someone that he has interest in, and someone that we'll talk about Rick. I feel so bad for that character in regards to what happens to him, but I'm sure we'll get more of Rick in his new form. But nonetheless, we see Mark invites himself to Upstate Upstate University, but he also wants to take Amber along on the trip with him. Going back to Mark as he has this conversation with Eve, he thanks her for covering for him in regards to what happened last week, saying that he was hit by a truck, and he was hit by a truck. Battle Beast, who I can't wait to see that character again. I hope he comes back in the show with only 2 episodes left. He thanks her, and we see Eve. She wants to be more of a hero. She wants to make a difference in what she feels is a way to make a difference in having her own journey and doing so. But as she leaves, we see Mark kind of looks up out of the window as she goes away, and you know that there's some feelings there, and that love triangle is shaping up to be something interesting with Mark, Eve, and we'll see what happens with Amber. But going back into something I'm really enjoying, and that's the discovery and an investigation that Debbie's doing on Nolan. As she has the suit, we see that Nolan recognizes and realizes that she's kind of digging some skeletons out of his closet as he now is aware of what she's up to. Cut back to Eve as she's packing her bags, getting out of the house from her parents. And I love the relationship she has with her mom, but the relationship she has with her dad, he pisses me off every time he undercuts and undermines his daughter's decisions. As the dad says to Eve, the worst day of my life is when you got powers. That really kind of broke her heart. And I love the Eve character, and I feel so bad for her. But again, I'm loving this journey that she's going on to discover what it means to her to be a hero. And I love the stuff that we'll talk about here in a bit. But we are formally introduced to the character that we met in the very beginning in regards to who's kidnapping these boys and these alpha males on campus. Is no other than D.A. Sinclair, who is voiced by Ezra Miller, who is a scientist and a college student who believes humans are failing and that they are challenging themselves, or they're having engineer challenges, and that they should be machines and they're not realizing their full potential. So very interesting character, a mad scientist of sorts, and having his kind of interactions that we see. Amber, who I love, just kind of call him out, just having this kind of, being self-indulged and think he's smarter than everyone in the room. She calls him out. Rick steps in, and we see when Rick steps in, he kind of puts himself on DA's radar for his next project, which we'll talk about Rick and DA a little bit later. But cut back to Amber, who is, or say Eve, who's at this point in the episode, she's building her new house in the forest. She's kind of going on her journey of, again, saving people in the forest, doing her thing, again, creating her own path and her own superhero journey. And again, I love that subplot, and I'm really enjoying that character. But we see Amber and Mark enjoying themselves together on campus, having a good couple date on campus, taking pictures together, and Mark brings up that this is what he really wants in the future. He wants to go to Upstate University, get his grades back up, and he wants Amber to tag along. And she says, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. But unfortunately, this kind of love moment between the two are broken up because we now have a robot zombie that attacks the campus. And I assume when I saw him, like, okay, that has to be the Doug character that we met in the beginning of this episode, which it was revealed to be. As we see William at this point is getting choked out by this robot zombie, which, by the way, I love that it was a zombie robot, Robert Kirkman and his history with zombies in The Walking Dead. But as I digress, we see Mark disappears and comes back as Invincible as he saves William. And William kind of looks up as we see Mark going against this robot zombie, and he realizes, that's my best friend Mark as Invincible. I kind of love that kind of moment when the friend figures out who the hero is. Again, Peter Parker vibes. But we cut to Invincible fighting this robot, and he's not 100%. We got to remember that. He's getting his ass handed to him yet again. Again, I love that Mark is unbeatable. He has his moments. He gets his ass kicked every single episode. So I love, again, that they're building this character up to be a great hero, inevitably, I would imagine, by the end of this season or potentially in the beginning of new seasons. But again, he's losing the fight, but he manages to pull the helmet off of the zombie, which again is revealed to be Doug, the character that we met at the beginning. And Doug sees his face and he kind of snaps and kind of has emotions, and he realizes what he's become. And we see him kill himself, which helped out Mark because Mark was really getting his ass handed to him in this fight. But Mark and William have their discussion about not telling anyone who a secret identity is. But unfortunately, as this is happening, we see Amber is very pissed at Mark because it appears to her that he just left them out in the cold to get hurt, to get killed potentially. So they have a bit of a moment there. And again, this is the moment that we love to see in superhero content, at least that I do, and why I love Spider-Man. As before he tells Mary Jane his true identity, or Gwen Stacy, he has to keep a secret because he doesn't want his loved ones to get hurt. So I love that moment there, and we'll talk about Amber in a little bit. But cutting back to DA as he vows to remove the emotions of his zombies, and how he's creating these zombies and all this stuff was just so fascinating to me. But now, like I said, he realizes that one of his zombies, Doug, escaped, but he now has his targets on Rick as his next victim. Cut to Monster Girl as Robot now has this kind of cosmos flower that can break her out of the curse and give her a 60% chance of living, as Samsung kind of hits the nail in the coffin as he's like, man, you're a robot. Why do you care so much about Monster Girl? And you didn't do all this to make sure that I came back to life, as his suspicions to why Robot wants to help Monster Girl. Again, we know as an audience, he's collecting DNA from Rex, from potentially Monster Girl, to create that baby that he wants to bring to life in some way and somehow, which we'll talk about that scene here. But I love, again, that people are at least Samsung is seeing what, Robot's up to. But going back to Debbie and her mission in this episode, she visits Art, who's voiced by Mark Hamill. I always love Mark Hamill. He's the tailor who makes all the superhero costumes. But they're having this conversation, but she gets the ball. She gets the moment she wasn't looking for, as, Art is able to point out the blood, whose blood is on there, that Nolan was definitely in a fight with the Guardians of the Globe. And, we see Debbie trying to make sense of it, trying to cover for her husband, but then he shows her that it was Nolan that struck first, which obviously breaks her heart. But we cut to seeing Nolan hearing all this go down. I'm like, oh man, Art, I hope he doesn't go out in this episode, but we'll talk about that scene they share here in a second. But cut to Eve doing her hero stuff, like I mentioned, saving people and seeing her progress of being a hero. But cut back to the Mauler twins as they're coming along with the DNA that Robot has given them, and they're having a little bit of a back and forth in regards to, we want our payment for what we're doing for you, as Robot saying you'll get it once you've accomplished a certain point into this progress. But they don't trust Robot as they're making their contingencies that we'll talk about at the end of this episode with the ending. But again, what exactly are they making? Again, that wasn't the little baby we saw on the tube. That was their own kind of amalgamation of a character, of this thing that they're trying to create with the blood of Rex, with the blood of other people that he's probably taken. And what exactly is Robot trying to create? Is he trying to make it for the good? I don't think he is, because why would he be so suspicious and hiding and working with villains to make this? Of course, it could be something for good. He's just playing them. But again, Robot and this mysterious baby zombie, or this baby tube, and this thing that they're creating for him, very interesting stuff. But we'll go back to the Mauler twins when we talk about that end scene. But going to Amber getting invited to a college party, we see Rick gets taken by DA, and William wants Invincible's help, but Invincible saying, no, I have to make it up with my girlfriend, and get him balancing out those two lives of being a hero and being a teenager. Cut to Monster Girl waking up, having her robot by her side, as she's kind of happy to see someone being there for her. But I don't know if you can trust Robot. But nonetheless, we see Nolan pays a visit to Art, and I love this scene because we see him kind of playing like a good guy, bad guy, and being very passive aggressive in the conversation he's having with Art, and not killing him, but just letting him know, hey, I'm your friend. If you know anything, you should talk to me first. So I love that moment that those two have. But we see at this point in the episode, William's going out to go search for Rick as it leads him down to the sewer. As we cut to William calling Mark, and the call gets broken up, and we see Mark leaves the party because he's thinking that, Amber's talking to the guy, and we find out he's not hitting on her. He has a girlfriend, and she's still on the fence about Mark and everything. But we see our boy Mark finds his way to the sewers as he thinks that he is just going to face one robot zombie, but no, there are multiple ones, and we get this really cool fight again. It wasn't a lot of action, but when we got the action with Mark fighting Doug, and now Mark fighting the rest of these zombies that DA has created, was a pretty awesome moment. But in this fight, it's revealed that one of those robots are indeed Rick. He has unfortunately been turned into a zombie robot, and we see that his emotions have been removed, or we thought they were removed, as Invincible yet again getting his ass handed to him. We see that William is at this point almost going to get his arm taken out by DA, but Rick begins to snap out of it. He takes away the thing that is controlling him. He's starting to cry. He has his emotions. He's almost like a, Frankenstein type of invention or creature at this point, as we see that now Rick is helping out Invincible take out the rest of the goons or take out the zombie robots. We see William kind of gets his licks in on DA, but doesn't really do much to him, as Mark catches up to DA and breaks his jaw and completely knocks him out. I thought he killed him for a second, but he didn't, because in comes the Global Defense Agency, as they do what they do best. They clean up the mess, as we see them taking DA away, and Mark asks Cecil, what are you going to do with him? Oh, we're going to bury him and, you know, put him under the cell or whatever the case may be. But it's important to see that Cecil says that I'm very impressed what he was able to do in all this and doing all this in the sewers. I think, we'll talk about my theory, but I think Cecil will be working with DA to create some more monsters to potentially take out Nolan. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but we end the episode with William crying, obviously, in Mark's arm because of what happened to Rick, which I hope we get more of Rick and this kind of zombie relationship that Rick and William might have in the future. But we see him checking on Amber, but they're still not on talking terms. And we see Eve having a happy moment because she's, you know, accomplishing her mission. She's doing exactly what she feels right to be a superhero in her eyes. As we wrap up, we see Debbie confronting Nolan about what she found, about the truth, but of course Nolan's going to deny. Debbie tells him to go screw himself as he punches the wall. He better not do anything to Debbie. This, you know, we know that Nolan has a temper on him, but I love that Debbie is now, she's coming to fruition. She's coming to realize what her husband's capable of, and I can't wait to see that conversation actually take place. But we end on a fantastic cliffhanger, as we see there are two characters on a private property undigging a grave, and we find out that one of the boys is Steve's son, which name is Matt. They're digging up, him and his friend are digging up Immortal. Now, you guys remember Immortal. He was one of the Guardians of the Globe who had his head decapitated. But we see that they want to take him out of the grave and drink from his skull. They think that they're going to get powers because they read this on Reddit. But the Mauler twins arrive. Now, this moment is huge because we saw the Mauler twins in this episode say that we have to have leverage with Robot because we don't trust him. We have to have a contingency in place. So, get into my theories about Immortal. We know that the Mauler twins have the DNA, they can, DNA, they can, bring people back or, bring them back with their powers and what they have in their blood, or at least one of the Mauler twins. So I believe that they're going to bring back Immortal in their fashion to go against Robot if Robot double crosses them. So that will be really interesting, on top of Immortal's, not as powerful, obviously, as Nolan, but he can hold his own in a fight, especially if they enhance him with their DNA, whatever DNA Robot gave them. Something to look forward to, as we see not only the Mauler twins making their contingencies against Robot, but we got to go back to Cecil. That comment that he made to Mark in regards to him being impressed by D.A. Sinclair and what he's able to create, I think that it's safe to say that Cecil will partner with D.A. to make his own type of monster to go against Nolan if things don't shake out the way he wants them to. So we got people teaming up with people, alliances maybe coming into place, but also some other things I wrote down in regards to things to look forward to. Samsung unconscious and awaking mysteriously. That's something to keep an eye out for, as well as what's next to come with Eve's journey. Obviously, what will Nolan do now that he knows that Debbie's onto him? Mark and Amber, in regards to that, what can we expect there? And of course, what exactly are the Mauler twins creating for Robot in their DNA test tube baby situation? So, love this episode. Again, it wasn't heavy on the action, but it was heavy on the character development. We got some great new character in D.A. Sinclair. Opens the door up for new characters again, involvement with Steve's son, Matt, and everything that goes on with him, and digging up Immortal, things to look forward to there. But I had a fun time with this episode, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So that's my thoughts, my theories, my predictions for the weeks ahead. But I want to know yours. Let's talk about this show. Again, if you read the comics, you probably know what's going to happen, but let's have a conversation about it without too many spoilers for the comic readers. If you're like me and just watching this as it's coming week to week, let's discuss your theories and have a great discussion in the comments. As always, like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Thank you all for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.